Showtime, Forever Lawless here again. So today we're going to be doing a set of T-bars on a 2000 Road King. It is a police bike. The owner of this bike is starting to set this up somewhat performance bagger, stud style, club style, whatever you want to call it. So today we're going to go through just a quick change out on these bars. We're not going to do any internal wiring or anything like that, due to the factor that some of us stunt guys end up changing our bars out a lot more than usual, than normal people do. So basically, we've already took the bars loose a little bit. So here's your clutch right here. Most people know this. Mounts right here. You got a clamp that comes through here. That is a Torx bit. It's a T27. You got the other clamp is here. 2 bolts here, and then you're gonna have 2 small 25s on the bottom here and on the top here. So we're gonna pull these ugly bars that are actually bent off this bike and throw a set of Bung King bars on it with a boosted brad top clamp. Those are actually for a Road Glide, but we're gonna see how they look on this Road King.
All right, so the next step is?
I've already got everything loose on this, and I've already got the bars loose and pulled back out of the way, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off as an assembly, let it hang. Next, we're gonna pull this side off. Like so. These are 1/4-inch Allen bolts. I can also answer any questions in the comment sections, or if you go to my channel and hit the email that's attached, I can answer any questions asked. I'm also a dealer for several different companies. Need to hook up on some parts? I got you.
So why would you recommend T-bars?
T-bars are now becoming more of a style and a trend. It's not so much about the rider anymore. It's more now about, hey, that's what's in, that's what's cool, that's what everybody's doing. Me personally, and along with a lot of other people, we believe in setting our bikes up for the way that we ride. Meaning, bars, performance brakes, performance suspension to go along with all the heavy motor work that we do. For me, if you're an aggressive rider, if you're, real into the curves, if you're real into, making these baggers handle like as close as they can to a street bike, you want to set them up the best way possible. For any aggressive rider out there, I recommend getting rid of your ape hangers, getting rid of your stock bars, and throwing a set of T-bars on it. All right, so in order for this next part with T-bars, your T-bars are basically a riser and then your top bar. You're gonna have a 1-piece bar, 2-piece bars, all sorts of different things. So then today's set, the bottom of these bars are your risers. So your bolts are gonna come out of here, and they're going to bolt where these risers are, where your top clamp was for your your normal style bar. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull both of these risers out, and that way we can put new bushings in it, and we can put the bolts up from the bottom up into these, and they'll be mounted straight. Solid. So now we're gonna jack the bike up. So what you're gonna wanna do now is jack the front wheel up, and you're gonna wanna turn the front end one way or the other. Bring the camera over here. So then if you look up in here, you can access the riser bolt, which is right there. On almost every one that I've ever done has been a 3/4 socket.
And you repeat the steps for both sides, correct?
Yes. All right, so here's a little cheat code, kind of try to help you out. If you come in here and you look, almost all of your touring models are going to have this piece right here that covers up your brake lines and stuff right here, this bottom little cowl. Just take a 10 millimeter, 3/8 actually. But you're going to want to take a 3/8 and just take these off right here. Turn the wheel and get the other one. Whether you reinstall this or not is totally up to you. Today we ain't putting it back on. Weight reduction. This guy needs all he can get when it comes to anything that can get him a little bit more power.
488 can't hold up to the old new 96s.
New 96.
Yeah, new 96s.
All right. So now that that's out,
Back to taking the what? The
riser bolts loose.
riser bolts loose.
All right. Since now that's out of the way, what we're gonna do is my shop. We got access to all the tools that we need. I'm just gonna run an impact up here. You can use a wrench or ratchet, whichever you prefer. So then here's your bolt. Here's your top washer for your bushing, which if you look at that bushing, you can tell it's got a little wear on it.
I can't get out of there one-handed.
So sometimes these bushings can be a real pain. These bushings actually aren't that bad. They're just really cheap. I recommend using poly bushings on T-bars, on anything really. All right, so now we're going to turn this again. And we're going to bust the other side loose and do the same thing. Ow. A lot of these you're going to find this ground wire here. You definitely want to make sure that you put the bolt back through it when you're going back in with the install. So the next thing that we're going to do, since the bushings are out, the bolts are out, there's no bars there, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the bushings in.
Can you show the bushing?
I will. Not sure on them. Bars were bought used. This guy threw these in. So What we're gonna do is we're gonna put some bushings in. Then of course you're gonna do them from the bottom as well.
Now, do you have to push the bottom ones in, or are you just gonna let the nut drive it in, or the bolt drive it in?
Majority of the time, the bottom ones, if they are a little bit of a pain in the ass, if you can get a hammer in there in order to tap it, like a little small hammer at all or a dead blow, try to tap it in. If not, just run the bolt in, which is always a good measurement to take anyway. Run the bolt in with a ratchet or a wrench. Just make sure that you got the threads good and there ain't going to be any issues. But yeah, they will pull up with it if they're being that big of a pain. And also, you can lube them. All right, so we got another bottom one to put in. I'm going to do that in a second whenever I turn the wheel back over. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to assure that there's Loctite on these riser bolts.
Working on Harley Davidsons, not to forget.
Loctite, red Loctite, or blue in this case. Next step, what we're going to do is the cameraman is going to hold these bars right here. And I'm going to run the bolt up from the bottom. The ground cable is in, which it is. We are finger tight on the bolt. Then we're going to turn the front end. Now that it's turned, the bushing actually pushed right in. We're going to take this one. Good and snug. So now we're going to turn the wheels again.
Oh, hold up.
Then we're going to run this other riser bolt back up. All right, now that one's good and tight. So now we're going to straighten the wheels up and give it. All right, so we're getting ready to take off the jack. Bars are on tight. We didn't actually video going back through. There's a little bit of modification we had to do due to the factor that didn't want to internally wire the bars on this one. But they go back on just like they came off. If you slide them off as a whole assembly, it's easier to put back on instead of taking them fully apart. So everything's bolted up, snugged up, ready to go. We're getting ready to give it a rip and see what she does. Make sure everything's good. We've already tested, make sure all the lights and stuff work, no issues. So we're going to give it a rip and see how we feel about it.